We are getting a feminist retelling of 1984. And just... the entire idea of that is just... Oh, Jesus. The book warning about authoritarianism is going to receive a modern-day authoritarian retelling. That's just brilliant. That is actually just brilliant. Now, if I'm to take this seriously for a moment, and it is gosh darn difficult to, particularly as well as this is. Oh Jesus! All right, I'm sorry. I'm calming down. Right, so the novel is being written from Julia's perspective. You know, the girl that Winston has his little illicit affair with. The girl who works in the fiction department, rewriting, pumping out propaganda basically for people to consume en masse, so that they won't care too much about Winston's propaganda department rewriting history. And this girl is now being written as a character in a feminist retelling of 1984. There are so many delicious levels of irony here. It's... it is actually difficult to fully comprehend, isn't it? Right. A feminist retelling of 1984. The most authoritarian, actually not the most anymore, they've backslid a little bit on the rankings, I do suppose, but one of the most authoritarian movements in modern day history is going to tell us how to really read 1984. Hell, literally yesterday, I did a video talking about how they were trying to now move into esports and how they needed rules and regulations and codes of conduct to punish those mean male players who beat the women at the video games. This group is now going to rewrite 1984. I cannot get over that. If at any point if there is a singular instance that really lights up in the night sky and goes, we're screwed, this might actually be it. And, of course, because the entirety of the mainstream apparatus is in lockstep behind this authoritarian narrative, the book has not even been released yet, and it is already being courted for a screen adaptation. There's already people lining up to be publishers for this feminist retelling of 1984. A TV show and movie is being speculated about before the goddamn thing is even out. Man, we are literally watching Goebbels' propaganda department cranking into full tilt, and again, before we've seen so much as a page, this is worthy of multiple releases. It needs to be translated into every gosh darn language. It needs to be on television. It needs to be a movie. And it's written by some tiny no-name author who has been, what was it? Oh yes. She had been nominated for the Woman's Award for writing. Which, again, kind of reminds me of yesterday's case, where the all-female esport team, the Victors, went 14-0. That's 14 losses in a major pro league competition, and now they play only in women's leagues. And, of course, the author is, of course she's a feminist, SJW, obviously. I mean, don't even ask that question. I had a quick look through her Twitter profile. The narrative that Kyle Rittenhouse wanted the protest to play the role of police officer and medic is especially insulting since the third guy he shot was a real paramedic, wearing a hat with paramedic on it and approaching Kyle with hands up, trying to stop him killing more people. Ah yes, the universally recognized "I've got a gun and I'm pointing at you" sign of surrender and please stop shooting people. Of course, she leaves that little part about the raised weapon out of the narrative there, but again, are you surprised? I mean, if nothing else, she'll be perfect for getting into the shoes of Big Brother, that's for certain. Her entire Twitter is filled with this kind of stuff, these kinds of retweets. She is fully on board with the modern-day propaganda narrative, which, again, I do suppose makes her a perfect candidate for this particular role. And hey, you know what? In a way, it's been a while since I read 1984, but I'm pretty sure that that Julia was not like Winston. Like, Winston hated this kind of world. He knew it was wrong on an instinctual level, and he sought to try and resist it in some way, even if not even necessarily cognizant of that fact to begin with. Julia was like a fish in water in this setting. She didn't really care over much about what she was doing, she didn't view it in any kind of ideological way, didn't necessarily think it's wrong. Like, she'd break rules, but she'd also take advantage of the party whenever possible. And, you know, write what you know, I do suppose. But let me circle back here to the beginning, right? 1984 is just the single most well-known, shall we say, example of a authoritarian regime, like a kind of the scare story, the horror story. This is what it could get to, and this is what it will inevitably try to get to, as the authoritarian regime will, of course, seek to increase its power over the populace, and also the kind of stratification of society, where there are certain groups that are really heavily hit by this, and others that are almost completely unaware that anything is actually happening whatsoever, so buried beneath so many layers of narratives that they don't even know what's going on anymore. And there has been a frightening number of parallels drawn between 1984 and, well, our current day, well, then political system, to the point where it has been certainly somewhat overused, but it is difficult to not look at the modern-day wokist left and go, yikes, yeah, I can see the parallels quite clearly. It's unfortunate in oh so many ways. And this the biggest book is now being rewritten. Not just, and here's the thing as well, if it was being rewritten just from Julia's perspective, right? It was literally just 1984, but we're gonna write it from a different perspective. Alright, okay, cool, that could be interesting, but no, it is expressly a feminist retelling of 1984. And the feminist movement is, at this point, a very clearly political movement. They have a very clear political ideology. They all march in lockstep with it, regardless of what the actual reality is, as demonstrated by that Kyle Rittenhouse tweet, where, again, it was just a paramedic. He was trying to stop him from killing more people whilst aiming a loaded handgun at him. Yes, I'm sure that was what happening. What was that funny meme? Second place in the shooting contest? Oh well. And this is, I mean, the odds of a feminist retelling simply just sticking with the narrative and delivering you this authoritarian hellhole in a way that is true and honest in 1984 is practically nil. I'd love to be surprised here. The best authors are the ones that can take their own opinions, put them in a box, and take them entirely out and separate of what they're currently writing. This is praise that I've had for quite a few Black Library authors in the past, mind you, but it is becoming an ever more precious and rare commodity, as unfortunately, the wokies are succeeding on one of their key premier points, trying to blend fiction into the political reality of today, where everything has to be some kind of political commentary. We were talking about this in the late stream with Sargon just last weekend, where it is presented with a narrative that 40k, for example, has totally always been woke, you see. It's always been far left radicalism. It's been commenting on the miners' strikes and Margaret Thatcher and all these kinds of stuff, whilst everyone else who reads these books go, ha ha ha, dumb green things beat other dumb green things over the head. It's the issue, isn't it? Satire is an incredibly powerful tool, particularly when it is used against the privileged class, which is why we saw such an absolutely massive backlash against Dave Chappelle when he dared to make a joke at the expense of the trans community. Suddenly, every mainstream media outlet needed to cover this. Suddenly, Dave Chappelle was punching down, was attacking people, and there were organized protests outside of Netflix trying to get him fired. And if you want to know who's ruling over you, figure out who you're not allowed to joke about, and you'll get a pretty damn good idea, pretty dang swiftly, in fact. And also, the very fact that the entirety of the apparatus is behind this. I think I found like 13 articles on this, all of them glowing, all of them happy, all of them from the mainstream media sources, obviously, and the fact that they're already sniffing about movies and TV show adaptations. The entirety of the machine is already primed and ready to get going, and it would only do that if it already knew what was coming down the pipeline, now wouldn't it? They wouldn't risk another 1984 to actually arrive and go, there's an awful lot of parallels to this horrible authoritarian society and what you're doing right now. Somehow, I suspect the book deals and the TV shows and the movies might disappear rather swiftly if that was to be the case. But here we are. 1984 is getting a modern-day propaganda remake. And it is absolutely lovely. Again, when there are this many levels of irony, you kind of just gotta smile, don't you? Anywho, until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching. If you like the video, leave a like. You've only got that option these days because, 1984 is absolutely, totally nothing to do with real life. Peasant. Now hit the upvote button, because it's the only option you got. And then leave a comment too, because you might as well fully dedicate yourself at this point, mightn't you? Have a good day.